The unexpected incident in a small apartment on a bustling space station. Alex had just settled into his new life with a strange roommate. He had moved to the station in search of something new, an adventure of sorts, or maybe just a change of scenery. What he didn't expect was to be living with an alien. His roommate, Zog, was nothing like anyone Alex had ever met before. Zog was a member of an alien species called the Zilks, known for their curious minds and their odd ways. He looked humanoid, but his green skin, 4 eyes, and elongated limbs were a constant reminder that Alex wasn't in Kansas anymore. At first, Alex didn't know what to expect. The Zilks were a peaceful race, and they had recently begun to integrate into human society. It was all very experimental, and Alex, being one of the few humans who had signed up for this sort of living arrangement, was supposed to be a pioneer of sorts. The problem? He hadn't quite figured out how to live with an alien just yet. Zog was polite and respectful, but he was also incredibly curious. He asked Alex 1,000 questions every day, many of which Alex didn't have answers. Tell us, why do humans sleep with blankets over their bodies? Why do you have that round object on your face when you speak into the communication device? Is there a reason you cover your feet with shoes? For the most part, Alex just laughed off these questions, trying to explain things the best he could. The truth was, Zog didn't understand human modesty at all. He came from a planet where clothing wasn't necessary, so he found the concept of privacy utterly baffling. The more Alex tried to explain it, the more confused Zog became. Still, they managed to live together relatively peacefully, until one morning when everything changed. It was a typical morning for Alex, or so he thought. He had woken up early as usual to prepare for the day ahead. The space station was buzzing with activity, people going to work, scientists running experiments, and the occasional tourist wandering around, trying to catch a glimpse of the stars. Alex had just finished showering, feeling a bit more awake, when he heard a faint knock on the door. He didn't think much of it at first. He assumed it was a Zog, asking him a question or needing something. Alex didn't mind. They were still getting used to living together, and the walls of their apartment weren't exactly thick. But when the door opened without any warning, Alex froze. Zog stood there, his 4 eyes wide with confusion. Alex's heart raced, and he quickly grabbed a towel to cover himself, his mind racing with thoughts of how to explain this awkward situation. But Zog didn't seem embarrassed at all. In fact, he didn't even seem to notice that Alex was half naked. Instead, Zog just stared at him, studying his body with a kind of fascination that made Alex uneasy. "Why are you covering yourself?" Zog asked, his voice filled with genuine curiosity. Alex didn't know how to respond. His face turned red as he stammered, trying to explain the concept of privacy. But it was no use. Zog just didn't get it. Humans, we cover ourselves. Because it's a cultural thing, Alex explained, hoping that would end the conversation. But Zog didn't look satisfied with that answer. "Why is it a cultural thing?" Zog pressed. "If the body is just a vessel, why does it matter who sees it?" Alex, now feeling more uncomfortable than ever, tried to brush it off. "It's just the way things are. It's how we've always done it." Zog didn't seem convinced. He tilted his head, his 4 eyes blinking slowly as he processed this new information. "But if it's just a vessel, why are humans so concerned with covering it? Does the body have something to hide?" Alex didn't know how to answer that. Was there something to hide? Wasn't the whole point of modesty to keep certain parts of your life private? But Zog didn't think about privacy the way humans did. For him, everything was out in the open. Bodies were just bodies, and there was no shame in them. Maybe I should explain more," Alex said, sighing. He could see the confusion in Zog's eyes. This was going to take a lot longer than he thought. "Zog, humans, we feel uncomfortable when others see our bodies, especially in ways that go beyond simple interaction. We have our reasons for it, but it's not something we can explain easily." Zog didn't seem to understand, but he nodded slowly, as if trying to process the information. "So, if I wanted to understand, I would need to observe more? To see how it affects you?" Alex blinked, not sure if Zog was asking for permission or if he was just thinking out loud. But before he could respond, Zog took a step forward. Alex's heart raced. No, wait. But it was too late. Zog had already pulled out a small device from his belt, something that Alex had never seen before. It looked like a small, glowing cube with strange symbols on it. This device will help me understand your human reactions better, Zog said, his voice calm and matter-of-fact. It will allow me to see through your eyes, to experience what you're feeling. Alex's breath caught in his throat. What? No, I don't think that's... Before he could finish his sentence, Zog pressed the cube against his chest and everything around Alex went dark. The world seemed to shift, and Alex could feel his body responding in ways he didn't quite understand. He wasn't sure if he was still standing in his apartment or if he had somehow stepped into another world entirely. All he knew was that something was happening, something that would change everything. This was no longer just a misunderstanding about privacy. It was something much bigger, and Alex wasn't sure if he was ready for it. The awkward aftermath. When Alex regained his senses, the world around him seemed different. His body felt strangely light, as if gravity had softened its hold on him. But the most unsettling part was the presence of Zog, who stood just a few feet away, observing him with a mixture of curiosity and mild concern. "What did you just do to me?" Alex asked, his voice shaky. He looked around, trying to make sense of the situation, but nothing felt normal. His apartment, once familiar, now seemed distant and distorted, as if he were seeing it through someone else's eyes. Zog's 4 eyes blinked slowly, studying Alex. "I did nothing to harm you, Alex. I merely allowed myself to experience what you feel, to understand your reactions better. Humans seem to hide their bodies, and I wanted to know why." Alex's mind raced. He couldn't quite put together what had just happened. Was it some kind of alien technology? A mind probe? He looked down at himself, expecting to feel the weight of his clothes, but instead, his senses were heightened, more aware of everything around him. His thoughts seemed sharper, clearer, like he could process information faster than before. He wasn't sure if this was part of what Zog had done, or if something else had changed. "You can't just..." Alex started, but he was cut off by the alien's voice, soft yet persistent. "I understand you are upset, but it was necessary. You wanted to explain to me why you feel uncomfortable when others see your body. The device allowed me to feel what you feel. It will help me learn. You will not have to explain it to me with words anymore. I can feel it now." Alex was speechless. It wasn't that Zog's explanation didn't make sense, it did in a way, but it felt wrong to have someone, especially an alien, feel his emotions without permission, to experience his discomfort in such an intimate way. The idea made him feel exposed in a way that was far beyond what had happened earlier when Zog had walked in on him. "But this isn't the same," Alex said, trying to regain control of the situation. "You can't just mess with someone's feelings like that. It's private." Zog tilted his head, his expression one of confusion, as if the concept of privacy was a puzzle he couldn't quite piece together. "But I did not intrude, Alex. I only sought understanding. You are not harmed. I feel only the emotions you allow me to experience. Why would that be a problem?" Alex's mind raced as he struggled to find a way to make Zog understand. The alien wasn't malicious, he wasn't trying to hurt Alex. But he was missing a crucial part of human experience, the need for boundaries, for consent. Zog seemed to view everything as data to be analyzed, like a puzzle to be solved. The emotional complexity of human interactions wasn't something the alien could easily grasp. You're not human, Zog," Alex muttered, rubbing his temples as if he could somehow clear his head of the strange sensation the alien's device had caused. "You can't just understand everything like that. There's more to it. Emotions, privacy, those things can't be measured or shared like that. It's not just information to be analyzed." Zog was silent for a long moment, and Alex could tell the alien was deep in thought. The silence in the room felt heavy, pressing down on Alex's chest as if the weight of Zog's gaze was something tangible. Finally, Zog spoke again. His voice, low and thoughtful, I see. I did not intend to make you uncomfortable. I only wanted to understand. Alex sighed, feeling the tension in his body begin to loosen, but the unease still lingered. It wasn't just the invasion of privacy that bothered him. It was the realization that Zog didn't fully grasp the importance of boundaries. To Zog, emotions were something to be shared, understood, and processed. To Alex, they were deeply personal, fragile things that could be easily broken or misunderstood. I appreciate that you're trying to understand, Alex said slowly, trying to find the right words. But there are some things that should stay private, even if it doesn't make sense to you. Zog's expression softened, though it was hard to tell what exactly he was feeling with his 4 eyes. I understand, he said quietly. I will not intrude again. But, if you are willing, I would still like to understand. Not just the human body or emotions, but the connection between us. I do not understand why humans form these bonds, why you feel the need to share parts of yourselves with others. Alex blinked, taken aback. Was Zog asking to understand human relationships? Was that what all of this was about? Suddenly, the awkwardness of the moment seemed to shift, and Alex felt a new wave of discomfort. It wasn't that he didn't want to explain. He had always been open to trying new things, learning and teaching. But this felt different. It felt too personal, too invasive, even if Zog's intentions were pure. I don't know if I can explain that to you, Alex said slowly. Not right now anyway. There's a lot to it, and it's not something I can teach you with a device. It's something you have to feel on your own. Zog's 4 eyes blinked, and he took a step back. I understand, he said again. But perhaps we can continue to learn together. I may not understand everything, but I am willing to try. Alex paused. This was more than just a roommate relationship. It was something else entirely, something that was both strange and new, but also terrifying. How far was he willing to let Zog in? Could he keep his boundaries intact while also allowing the alien to learn about him, about humanity? It felt like the beginning of something that Alex didn't fully understand. Maybe in time he would find the answers. But for now, all he could do was step forward into the unknown and hope that he could maintain a sense of himself in the process. The alien's offer. The days following the incident with the device were awkward, to say the least. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had changed between him and Zog. He tried to avoid looking at the alien as much as possible, fearing that Zog would somehow read his thoughts, feel his emotions again. The idea of being constantly observed, even when he wasn't aware of it, made him uncomfortable. But Zog seemed to be giving him space. The alien had been quieter than usual, spending most of his time in his room, working on something Alex couldn't quite understand. There was a quiet respect in the air, an unspoken agreement that they needed time to process everything. Still, every time Alex saw Zog's 4 eyes staring at him, he couldn't help but wonder what the alien was thinking. One evening, as Alex sat on the couch trying to distract himself with a book, Zog approached him. His steps were deliberate, and there was a calmness in his movements that made Alex uneasy. He had been waiting for this moment, knowing that something like this would eventually happen. He just didn't know when. Alex, Zog began, his voice soft but firm. I've been thinking. I believe I owe you an apology. What I did, it was not meant to cause harm. I wanted to understand you better, but I see now that my methods were flawed. Alex didn't know how to respond. The apology wasn't unexpected, but hearing it out loud made him feel a little better. Still, he couldn't forget the discomfort he'd felt when the alien had invaded his personal space, his emotions, his body. It was something he wasn't sure he could just brush aside, but he was willing to listen. It's okay, Zog, Alex said slowly, still unsure of what to say. I know you didn't mean any harm, but I don't know if I can ever fully explain everything about human emotions to you. It's not something you can just learn through a device. Zog's 4 eyes blinked, and he tilted his head as if considering Alex's words. I understand, but I still want to learn. I want to know what it means to connect with others, to form relationships, to understand why humans are so complicated. The honesty in Zog's voice was disarming. Alex hadn't expected the alien to take his words so seriously. He had always thought of Zog as someone who was simply curious. Curious about the world, curious about human behavior. But now it seemed like the alien was searching for something deeper, something that went beyond simple observation. "I can't teach you everything about human relationships, Zog," Alex said, trying to make sense of the situation. "But maybe we can figure it out together. I don't know what that would look like, but I'm willing to try." Zog seemed to consider this for a moment, then nodded slowly. "That is all I ask. To try." There was a pause before Zog spoke again, his voice taking on a more serious tone. "There is another way, Alex. A way that may help you understand more without having to explain everything in words. I have a device, a tool that can connect us, allow us to share experiences directly, without the need for verbal explanations. It will let you see the world from my perspective and I will see it from yours. We can share moments, memories, feelings, without the confusion of words." Alex's stomach tightened. He wasn't sure what to make of this. Another device? Another chance for Zog to get inside his head. He had barely gotten over the last experience, and now Zog was suggesting something even more intimate, something that would bridge their minds and emotions even further. "I don't know, Zog," Alex said cautiously. "I'm not sure that's a good idea. I've already told you I'm not comfortable with being invaded like that. I don't know if I can go through something like that again." Zog's expression softened and he seemed genuinely apologetic. "I understand your hesitation, Alex, but this is different. It is not an invasion. It is a bond, an exchange. You will be in control. I will not force anything upon you. It is simply a way for us to communicate without misunderstanding." Alex took a deep breath, trying to wrap his mind around what Zog was offering. Was it worth the risk? Could he truly trust Zog to respect his boundaries this time? Part of him felt like this was just another step into the unknown, a step that might lead to a deeper connection but also a deeper vulnerability. "What exactly would happen?" Alex asked, his voice tinged with uncertainty. "How would it work, and what do you mean by control?" Zog held up his hand, a small device glinting in his palm. It looked like a sleek, smooth orb. No, larger than a marble. It pulsed with a soft glow, casting faint shadows on the walls. "This device will allow us to share our consciousnesses for a brief time. It is not like the previous one. This will not take anything from you, but it will give us a glimpse into each other's experiences. You will feel what I feel, and I will feel what you feel. You can stop it at any moment and you will remember everything clearly." Alex hesitated. The idea of sharing such a deep, intimate connection with Zog was both terrifying and alluring. He had never experienced anything like this before. The thought of seeing the world from an alien's perspective, of truly understanding what it felt like to be in someone else's shoes, was tempting. But at the same time, the idea of losing control over his own thoughts and emotions made his skin crawl. "You're asking me to trust you," Alex said slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. Zog nodded, his four eyes meeting Alex's gaze with a sincerity that Alex couldn't ignore. "Yes, I am. I understand that it is a big request, but I believe that it is the only way for us to truly understand each other. I want to know you, Alex, not just your words, but your thoughts, your feelings, your experiences, and I want you to understand me too." Alex sat back on the couch, feeling a wave of uncertainty wash over him. Was he ready for this? Was he ready to share his mind with someone, something so different from himself? For the first time, Alex realized that the alien in front of him wasn't just some strange roommate. Zog was offering him something deeper, a connection that might change everything. But the question was he willing to take that leap? The experiment begins. Alex stood at the center of his apartment, staring at the small device in Zog's hand. It had a soft, pulsing glow, like a living thing. His mind was racing, heart pounding in his chest. He couldn't help but wonder what It would be like what it would feel like to truly experience the world through Zog's eyes. There was a part of him that was fascinated by the idea, by the chance to understand the alien mind. But another part of him, the part that clung to the safety of his own experiences, his own identity, was terrified. Zog had promised that the device would be different this time, that he wouldn't intrude on Alex's mind, that he would be in control. But how could Alex be sure? The memories of the last time, the way Zog had accessed his emotions so effortlessly, still lingered, uncomfortably close. He hadn't forgotten how it felt to be seen in ways he didn't want to be seen, to have his own vulnerability exposed so thoroughly. "Are you sure this is a good idea?" Alex asked, his voice tentative, still unsure of himself. He had been wavering on whether or not to trust Zog, but now the choice seemed unavoidable. Either he took the leap, or he continued living in this strange, unspoken tension between them. Zog's expression was calm, reassuring. His 4 eyes locked onto Alex's, unblinking. "I understand your hesitation, Alex, but this is not just an experiment. It is an opportunity. You will see things in a way that you cannot now. We will share experiences, and in doing so, we will learn what it means to truly understand each other." Alex took a deep breath. He wasn't sure what this would mean for him, for their relationship, but he had already taken so many steps into the unknown. What was one more? "All right," he said, his voice steady, though his hands shook ever so slightly. "Let's do it." Zog didn't waste any time. He stepped forward, holding the device in front of him, his movements fluid and deliberate. There was no hesitation in his actions. He placed the device against Alex's chest, the soft glow of it casting a strange warmth over Alex's skin. The sensation was immediate, unlike anything Alex had ever felt. It wasn't a shock or an electric pulse. It was more like the sensation of sinking into water, the world around him softening, bending. He could feel Zog's presence now, felt it in the way his mind seemed to expand outward, as if there was more of the universe inside him than he could process. For a moment, there was silence. It was as if Alex's mind had been suspended between two worlds. One moment he was in his apartment, standing in front of Zog. The next, it felt as if he was floating above his own body, observing it from a distance. He could see Zog beside him, but there was no longer any separation between them. It was as if their minds had melded together into a shared space, a space that felt vast and infinite, filled with the echoes of emotions, thoughts, and feelings. This is what it feels like, Alex realized. This is what it's like to be inside someone else's mind. But there was something unsettling about it. The experience wasn't just a passive observation. It was active, too active. He could feel Zog's thoughts intertwining with his own, his alien thoughts probing, searching for meaning. Alex felt exposed, as if his most private thoughts were laid bare. It wasn't invasive per se. It was more like a gentle exploration. But it was still uncomfortable. In this strange, shared space, Alex found himself seeing flashes of Zog's memories. The way Zog had grown up, the culture of the Zilk's people, the endless curiosity that had driven him to explore the universe. Alex felt Zog's longing to understand, his deep desire to connect, to share in the experiences of others. He felt it as a part of himself, this relentless drive to make sense of the world. Then, just as quickly, Alex saw his own memories flash before him, his childhood, the people he had known, the places he had visited. His life was so ordinary, so human. It was almost jarring to see it from this new perspective, from Zog's eyes. It was as if he had never truly seen his own life before. He saw the moments of joy, the first time he learned to ride a bike, the feeling of holding his first book, the quiet contentment of a sunny day, but he also saw the darker moments, the arguments with his parents, the loneliness of being misunderstood, the times he had struggled with his own emotions and desires. He felt all of it, each moment, each feeling, as if they were his own. The experience was overwhelming. Alex wanted to pull back, to shut it all out, but the device wouldn't let him. Zog's presence was like a weight in his mind, not oppressive, but ever-present. He could hear Zog's voice, though it wasn't spoken aloud. It was a voice in his mind, asking questions, seeking answers. Do you understand now? Do you see what it is to be human? Alex wanted to scream, to tell Zog that it wasn't that simple. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, he could only feel the weight of Zog's questions pressing against him, like an unspoken plea for understanding. The emotions in the air were thick with something Alex couldn't name, a mix of curiosity, longing, and something deeper, something more connected than he had ever felt with another person. Suddenly, the weight lifted. Alex's mind snapped, back into focus, and he was standing in his apartment again, the world around him sharp and clear. He looked down at the device, still resting against his chest. It was no longer glowing. Zog stood a few steps away, his expression unreadable. Alex took a deep breath, his chest tight. He felt like he had been to the edge of something and back. He had experienced another world, another mind, and it had left him feeling exposed, raw. You said I would be in control, Alex whispered, his voice shaky. But it didn't feel that way. It felt like you were inside me. Zog nodded slowly, his 4 eyes fixed on Alex. I understand. The connection is not one-sided. It cannot be. But you were never in danger. You were always in control of your own thoughts. I could not force you to feel anything. Alex's heart pounded in his chest. But it still felt like you were taking something from me. It was never my intention to take anything from you, Zog replied, his voice gentle. I only wanted to understand. And now perhaps you understand me a little better. Alex swallowed hard, trying to steady his racing thoughts. The experience had been both exhilarating and terrifying, and he wasn't sure how to process it all. But one thing was clear. Things had changed between him and Zog. They had crossed a line, one that could never be uncrossed. And as Alex looked into Zog's 4 eyes, he couldn't help but wonder, what now? Where did they go from here? The transformation. The days after the experiment felt like a blur to Alex. His mind was still reeling from the intensity of what had just happened. The sensation of Zog's presence, both alien and intimate, lingered, like a shadow that refused to fade. He couldn't escape the overwhelming flood of emotions, thoughts, and memories that had intertwined with his own during their shared experience. It wasn't just about understanding Zog or even understanding himself. It was about the bond they had formed, something unspoken but undeniable. Zog, for his part, seemed unchanged. He was as calm and composed as ever, his alien curiosity still evident in the way he observed Alex. But Alex could sense something different now. It was like the alien had unlocked a door that Alex wasn't ready to open. And now, every time they interacted, it felt as if that door was ajar. Zog was no longer just a roommate. He was something more, a part of Alex's life in a way that was both unsettling and undeniable. One evening, as the stars outside the station flickered like distant diamonds, Zog approached Alex once again. There was a quiet urgency in his movements, something Alex hadn't seen before. The alien's expression was serious, almost solemn. Alex, Zog began, his voice low, there is something I must show you, something I believe will change how you view the world. Alex raised an eyebrow, confused. What is it this time? Another device? Another experiment? He couldn't help the edge in his voice, the way his words betrayed the lingering discomfort he felt after the last encounter. But Zog's gaze softened, and there was no hint of malice in his eyes. No, not an experiment, Zog replied. This is not about learning or understanding, not in the way we have before. It is something more. It is a transformation, a change in how we both see the world, ourselves, and each other. Alex's heart skipped a beat. Transformation, change. He had already experienced so much in such a short amount of time, and the Thought of something even more profound happening was enough to make him feel dizzy, but curiosity won out. What else could Zog show him? What could he possibly offer that would make all of this feel even more real? What kind of change are we talking about here? Alex asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Zog extended, his hand revealing a small intricate device different from the one he had used before. This one was more organic in appearance, almost like a living thing, with smooth, translucent surfaces that seemed to pulse with a gentle glow. It didn't look threatening, but Alex felt a chill run down his spine nonetheless. This device, Zog explained, is not for sharing thoughts or emotions. It is for altering perception. It will allow us to see beyond the physical world, to connect in a way that transcends the boundaries of our species. You will experience a shift, a change in how you perceive not only yourself, but the very fabric of reality itself. Alex took a step back, his mind racing. He had already allowed Zog into his thoughts and emotions, but this felt different. It felt like something irreversible, something that would alter him in ways he couldn't predict. "I'm not sure about this, Zog," Alex said, his voice trembling. "I don't know if I can handle more change. I'm still processing everything that happened the last time." Zog's 4 eyes softened, and he stepped closer, placing a hand gently on Alex's shoulder. "I understand your fear, Alex, but this is not about forcing you to experience something you're not ready for. It's about growth, about pushing past the limits of what we know and allowing ourselves to evolve." Alex closed his eyes for a moment, trying to clear his mind. He wasn't sure if he was ready for this, but he couldn't deny that there was a part of him that wanted to understand, to see the world the way Zog did. Maybe, just maybe, this was the next step in their journey. Maybe this was the key to breaking down the walls between them and understanding each other on a deeper level. "All right," Alex said finally, his voice steady, though his heart was racing. "Let's do it." Zog nodded, a soft smile tugging at the corners of his lips. Without another word, he placed the device against Alex's chest, just like before. But this time, the sensation was different. Instead of simply feeling the world shift around him, Alex felt as if he was being drawn into something vast and boundless. It was like he was falling into the very fabric of existence itself. At first, there was nothing, just darkness. Then slowly he began to see shapes, fragments of light, colors that he had never seen before, sensations that he couldn't quite name. The world around him blurred, and he felt himself stretching, expanding beyond the confines of his body. He could feel Zog beside him, but this time there was no distinction between them. It was as if they were two parts of a whole, their minds intertwined in ways that defied explanation. In this altered state, Alex began to see the world differently. He wasn't just seeing with his eyes anymore, he was feeling it, experiencing it in ways that transcended physical perception. He could see the emotions of the people around him, the hidden currents of thought and intention that shaped their actions. He could feel the pulse of the station, the rhythm of life itself. It was like he had tapped into something deeper, something ancient and universal. He saw Zog's world through his eyes, what it was like to be an alien, to exist in a mind that was constantly seeking to understand, to explore, to learn. Alex felt the weight of Zog's longing, the relentless curiosity that drove him to search for answers in the universe. It wasn't just intellectual, it was a deep, emotional need to connect, to be part of something larger than himself. And then, just as suddenly, the flood of sensations stopped. Alex found himself back in the apartment, breathing heavily, his body trembling from the intensity of the experience. The device was no longer glowing, and Zog was standing in front of him, waiting patiently. Alex felt changed. He couldn't explain it fully, but he knew that he wasn't the same person he had been before. He had seen the world in ways that had shattered his understanding of reality. He could feel Zog's presence inside him, not in a way that was invasive, but in a way that was integrated. Their minds had fused, not in a way that erased their individual identities, but in a way that had blurred the lines between them. "What did you see?" Zog asked softly, his voice tinged with the same curiosity that had driven him from the start. Alex swallowed hard, trying to process everything. I don't know how to describe it. It's like I've seen the truth of everything, the connections between all of us, the way we're all linked. But it's more than just physical, it's emotional, mental, it's... Alex paused, trying to find the words. It's overwhelming. Zog nodded, as if he had expected that response. I understand, but you have taken the first step. Now we are no longer just two beings in a shared space. We are connected in a way that is beyond explanation. This is the transformation I spoke of. Alex's mind was still swirling, and he wasn't sure what it all meant yet. But one thing was clear. The bond between him and Zog had deepened in a way he never could have imagined. And as he looked into Zog's eyes, he realized that this was only the beginning of something much greater. The twist. The days following the transformation were unlike anything Alex had ever experienced. His world had changed, or perhaps it was more accurate to say that he had changed. He could no longer look at the people around him, the space station he lived on, or even himself, in the same way. Every interaction, every conversation felt like it had layers he hadn't noticed before. He saw emotions, desires, thoughts, unspoken things that were once hidden beneath the surface. And Zog? Well, Zog was different too. They had crossed a threshold together, a place where boundaries between minds had dissolved. Alex could still feel the alien's presence, not in a way that was invasive, but as if they were sharing a wavelength that was uniquely theirs. He could sense Zog's thoughts, his unspoken questions, his ongoing search for understanding, and in return Zog could feel Alex's confusion, his wonder, and his unease. For the first time in weeks, Alex felt like he could breathe. The tension between them was gone, replaced with a kind of quiet understanding, even if it was still laced with uncertainty. But just as he was starting to get comfortable with this new reality, something happened that shattered the fragile calm between them. It began subtly. A look, a glance exchanged between Zog and Alex in the hallway of the station. At first, Alex thought it was just his imagination playing tricks on him. But then, it became impossible to ignore. Zog had begun to act differently, in ways that Alex couldn't explain. The alien was no longer just an observer of human life, he was becoming more involved. His curiosity, once innocent and academic, had evolved into something deeper, more personal, more dangerous. It happened one evening while they were eating dinner together, the dim lights of the station flickering outside the small window of their apartment. Zog was unusually quiet, his four eyes focused on Alex in a way that made his skin prickle. You're distant, Zog said, breaking the silence. His voice, which had always been calm and measured, now carried a hint of something else. Something unfamiliar. Alex paused, his fork halfway to his mouth. What do you mean? Zog leaned forward, his expression serious. You're not here, Alex. You've changed since the transformation. You've become more disconnected. Alex felt a chill settle over him. I'm not disconnected, he said quickly. But even as he said the words, he knew they weren't true. Something inside him had shifted, something deep and primal that he couldn't put into words. The transformation had opened up parts of him that were better left untouched, and now he was feeling the weight of it. Zog's gaze didn't waver. It's not just you, though. It's me, too. The bond between us, it's growing stronger. And that's not all. I can feel it, Alex. The connection is different now. Alex's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? Different. Zog's four eyes narrowed, and Alex could see something flicker behind them. Something that wasn't quite right. I'm no longer just observing you, Alex, I'm feeling you. And it's not just your emotions anymore, I can sense your thoughts, your memories, even your desires. I've seen things that I wasn't meant to see. And I think you've seen the same things in me. Alex felt his breath catch in his throat. The bond they shared had always been unsettling, but now it was taking on a different dimension, He could feel it, the way their thoughts, their minds, were beginning to merge. It wasn't just an exchange anymore. It was as if they were becoming one entity, sharing everything, every emotion, every fleeting thought, every whispered desire. But then Zog said something that completely shattered the fragile illusion of control Alex had been holding on to. "I know what you're hiding, Alex," Zog said quietly, his voice filled with an intensity that sent a shiver down Alex's spine. "I know the truth about you." Alex froze. He tried to laugh it off, but his throat was dry. "What are you talking about?" Zog's eyes softened, but there was something in his expression that was unrecognizable. "The human mind is complex, Alex. You hide things from others, but you can't hide them from me anymore. Not with this bond. I know your deepest fears, your darkest memories. I know what you're running from." The words hit Alex like a blow to the chest. His breath faltered as memories, long buried, began to surface. The guilt, the shame, the things he had tried so desperately to forget. Zog's presence in his mind had unlocked them, bringing them back with a force that made his head spin. He had thought he could control the bond, could keep his secrets buried, but now it was all out in the open. The alien had seen everything. You can't know that," Alex whispered, his voice trembling. But Zog didn't back away. Instead, he reached out, placing his hand gently on Alex's. "I'm sorry, Alex. I never intended for this to happen. But now that I know, we can't go back. This bond, it has changed us both. And I think it's too late to undo it." Alex felt his heart race. He could no longer deny it. Zog wasn't just some alien roommate. He was something more. He was a part of him now, in ways that were irreversible. And the more Alex tried to resist, the more the connection deepened. It was like trying to fight a current that was pulling him further into a storm. For the first time, Alex understood the full weight of what Zog had said. The bond between them was not just about understanding each other. It was about sharing everything. Zog had seen his fears, his mistakes, his regrets. And now Alex could feel Zog's deepest desires, his own insecurities, the things he had never spoken aloud. They were no longer separate beings. They were interwoven, tangled in a web of emotions and thoughts that no one, especially not Alex, was prepared for. "Didn't want this," Alex whispered, shaking his head. "I didn't want to be part of this. I thought I could trust you, but now it feels like I'm losing myself." Zog's expression softened, and he withdrew his hand. But the damage had already been done. The bond between them was no longer just a tool for understanding. It was a force that was starting to shape them both in ways they couldn't control. "I never meant to make you feel this way," Zog said softly. "But the truth is, we're both caught in something bigger than either of us. The bond is growing stronger, Alex. It's more than just understanding. It's a connection that will change us in ways we can't predict." Alex's mind was spinning. He felt exposed, vulnerable in a way that was impossible to escape. And as Zog's words echoed in his mind, Alex realized something terrifying. There was no going back. They were no longer just two beings sharing an apartment. They were something else, something connected by forces they had yet to fully understand. And as he looked into Zog's eyes, Alex knew that the path they were on was one that would lead them somewhere neither of them could have foreseen. The sore decision. The days following the realization that Zog and Alex had crossed an irreversible line were nothing short of suffocating. Alex could feel the tension thick in the air, like a storm waiting to break. The bond between them had only grown stronger, deeper, and the more Alex tried to resist, the more entwined their thoughts and emotions became. Every glance, every touch, every word exchanged felt like it carried an invisible weight, a force that neither of them could escape. Alex knew something had to give. He couldn't keep living this way, tethered to Zog in a way that felt too intimate, too overwhelming. But what was the alternative? What could he do to untangle himself from a bond that had become as real as His own thoughts? Sitting in the quiet of their apartment, Alex stared out of the window at the endless expanse of stars. The beauty of space, once so awe-inspiring, now seemed distant, cold, and unreachable. It was hard to believe he was still on the same space station he had moved to just a few weeks ago. Everything felt different. He felt different. Zog's presence was still there, lingering in the corners of his mind, even though the alien wasn't physically in the room with him. It had been like this ever since the bond had deepened. Zog was always there like a shadow, and now the silence between them seemed charged, thick with unspoken words and emotions. And yet, despite the turmoil, Alex knew there was something undeniable between them. It wasn't just curiosity or the need for understanding anymore. It was something deeper, a connection that went beyond the physical, beyond the emotional. It was something that Alex wasn't sure he could ever explain, but it was there, and that scared him more than anything. The door to their apartment opened slowly, and Alex didn't need to turn around to know who it was. Zog's presence filled the room almost instantly, his quiet steps barely audible as he moved closer. "Alex," Zog said, his voice soft but firm. There was a new tone in it, one that Alex hadn't heard before. It wasn't demanding, but it was insistent, like Zog had made a decision of his own. Alex didn't answer right away. Instead, he turned to face the alien, his expression weary. Zog's 4 eyes met his with an intensity that made Alex's stomach tighten. It was as if Zog could see through him, reading the thoughts and emotions that Alex wasn't sure he even fully understood himself. "I can feel it, Alex," Zog continued, his voice steady. "You've been pulling away. I know this connection is difficult for you. I know you're scared." Alex's breath hitched. He wanted to say something, to argue that it wasn't just fear. There was confusion, frustration, and something deeper that he couldn't name. But the words stuck in his throat. Zog stepped forward, closing the distance between them. "But you don't need to be afraid," he said, his voice almost soothing. "This bond isn't a prison. It's a bridge, one that connects us in a way no one has ever been connected before. There's a chance here, Alex. A chance for us to understand each other completely, to experience the world as one." Alex's heart pounded, and he fought to steady his breath. He could feel the weight of Zog's words, the pull of them, but they weren't enough to convince him, not entirely. "You don't understand," Alex said, his voice shaking with emotion. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't want this. I don't know how to handle it. I'm losing myself, Zog. I don't know where I end and you begin anymore." Zog's expression softened, his 4 eyes glinting with something Alex couldn't quite place. "I know. But that is the very thing I wanted to show you, Alex. In this connection, there is no you and me. There is only us. There is only understanding, pure and unfiltered. The barriers between us, the distance we've placed between ourselves, all our lives, it doesn't need to exist anymore." Alex's mind swirled with conflicting thoughts. The idea of total understanding, of complete connection, was tempting. But it was also terrifying. What would he be without his boundaries? What would he be without his individuality? The thought of merging with Zog, of truly becoming part of each other, felt like a loss of control, a loss of everything that made him human. "I don't know if I can do this," Alex whispered, the words heavy with the weight of everything he was feeling. "I don't know if I can be that close to you, to anyone." Zog's gaze softened even further. "I know this is difficult, Alex, but you must understand something. I'm not asking you to lose yourself. I am asking you to find yourself, to embrace something new, something that will allow you to see the world and the people in it from a perspective you could never imagine before." Alex swallowed hard, feeling the weight of Zog's words settle in his chest. He wanted to pull away, to shut down the bond, to go back to the way things were before, but deep down he knew that was no longer possible. He had seen too much, felt too much, and now, the question wasn't about whether he could return to his old life. The question was whether he could accept this new version of himself, this new version of them. "I can't make this decision alone," Alex said finally, his voice raw. I can't choose between us like it's some kind of game. I need to know what this means, what it really means. Zog nodded slowly, his expression resolute. I understand, and I will wait for you to decide. But know this, Alex. You are not alone in this. You never have been. Whatever choice you make, I will be here, waiting, for you to decide what path you want to take. And if that path means separation, I will respect it. But if it means unity, if it means continuing this journey together, then I will walk beside you, always. The room was silent for a long moment as Alex processed Zog's words. The decision lay before him, stark and undeniable. He could feel the weight of it in every part of him. This was a decision that would define everything that came after. Could he allow himself to be part of something so vast, so intertwined with another being? Could he let go of his fears and embrace this new connection, this new reality, even if it meant giving up parts of himself? In the end, the answer wasn't clear. But as Alex looked into Zog's eyes, he knew that whatever choice he made, it would be one that would change the course of his life forever. I don't know what the future holds, Zog, Alex said quietly. But I'm willing to try. For us. And in that moment, the weight of the choice lifted. Whatever came next, they would face it together.